Hey guys, how you doing today? We're going to do something a little bit different in this video. This video is going to feature a radio that was purchased by Brendan. Most of you know Brendan, he's my mentor, helps me with a lot of projects. Brendan doesn't like to do YouTube videos, so him and I have agreed that we're going to do this way. And I can guarantee you one thing, this is going to be a first for YouTube. You're not going to find this radio anywhere on YouTube, and you're not going to find anyone that's restored it on YouTube. Now, the way we're going to do this is Brendan's going to send me still photos, and I'm going to narrate it. It'll be a three-part series, and you're going to be able to follow along. The radio we're going to work on today is a Detrola Pee-wee, model 197, extremely rare, really hard to come by. By the time we end this three-video series, you'll understand why. And you'll understand how good Brendan is at really restoring radios. So with that, let's jump in. Okay, let's start off part one with a little bit of history here. The Detrola Radio and Television Corporation was actually founded in Detroit in 1931 by a person by the name of John Ross. And Detrola really became the brand of affordable radios in the midst of the Depression. It was probably the most prolific manufacturer of private brand radios for department stores and small retailers. They actually built for more than 100 different brand names, believe it or not. They manufactured large quantities of radios under the True Tone name for Weston Audio, Silvertone for Sears. The popular models were the Super Pee-wee and the Catalin 281. They were known as cheap economy sets. At the height of 1936, Detrola became the sixth largest radio manufacturer in the United States, had about 1,000 employees, and had sales representatives in many cities and foreign countries. Just like many other radio companies in 1941, it became a supplier of war supplies, and most notably, they made landmine detectors and aircraft radios and electrical panels for ships. At that point, John Ross sold his interest in the company to International Machine Tool, which was a conglomerate led by Russell Feldman. After World War II, Detrola resumed civilian production but decided not to branch off into the television set market. However, production costs became really high, and there were serious union issues at that time. So the company struggled to keep up with large manufacturers. Ultimately, what happened is the company sold off its thriving auto radio manufacturing business to Motorola in 1948 and stopped all manufacturing at the end of 1948. As of 2016, Crosley Radio has revived the Detrola namesake for its reproduction radio, and you've all seen those reproductions. They look like an old radio, but it's an AM, FM, Bluetooth deal. Well, that's the history on Detrola. Now, let's jump into Brendan's radio. So let's take a look at it really quick. So here's the radio right here. And the story that Brendan tells is that when he was very young, his father gave him the Detrola Pee-wee for his room. He bought it on Radio Row in New York City in the late 1930s for his apartment. And that was before he went into the Navy during World War II. Brendan thinks it's the first radio that got him interested in radio to begin with, a fascination that has obviously lasted his entire life. Brendan has no idea what happened to the radio. He thinks his mother was always worried about the cord on it because it got hot when the radio was playing. So she may have gotten rid of it and substituted it with an Emerson radio that he does remember having. Detrola was really famous for small, inexpensive radios, like I said, and their late 30s Pee-wee line of radios was a huge hit, and they sold thousands of them. Brendan then goes on to say that he moved to Detroit, and that's where he grew up in the city, exactly where the radio was made, which is ironic. Even so, he was never able to find one of these radios to add to his collection. At least not one that was good enough or was priced right. There were some very inexpensive radios and cabinets that were prone to breakage, and also warpage because of the heat they generated. Take a look at how close these components are and you'll understand why. So a majority of them were either broken or stopped working and were thrown away, simply. They're probably in landfills all over the place. This made them really, really rare and turned into collector's items. The styling of the sets is what makes them collectible, not only for the collector, but for Art Deco collectors. The cabinet was designed by the famous designer George W. Walker. Now, fast forward, recently, Brendan was able to get a bid on one of these things on eBay And luckily, it survived the journey of shipping to him. The pictures I'm going to show you now are how the set arrived. Given the propensity for these things to be broken, cracked, Brendan believes that it arrived in excellent condition. And, you got to consider it's over 80 years old. So let's take a look at the chassis. There's the chassis. And you could see it's very complete and looks good. One thing we should note is that Detrola took full advantage of the RCA metal tubes. These tubes were self-shielding, as many of you know, so they could be placed really close together in a small set like this. This made a compact radio possible. The radio also appears to have the original tubes in it, which is unbelievable. Let's take a look underneath, and you can see that some work has been done to the set. The filters have been replaced a long time ago, and several small capacitors. The set may work, but Brendan is not going to be doing anything until he goes through it, so he doesn't want to risk it. If you look at the speaker and the line cord, it appears the speaker may have gotten damp at one time, and it could probably use a little help, but I'm sure Brendan will do that. Now let's take a look at the old curtain burner cord. It's reasonably in good shape for its age, and it's very pliable, and it ohms out perfectly according to Brendan. He's going to try to retain the cord by cleaning up the plug end and replacing the plug. Brendan thinks we're ready to work on the radio. So here's what we have. So in part 2, Brendan is going to attach photos of the restoration in progress. So I hope you enjoy this. Stay tuned for part 2. Everybody have a great day.